Oftentimes, a lot of us trying to love after trauma fall in love while we're in fetal position, energetically. We are closed down to receiving the love that we so desperately want. And relationships have been band-aids. Falling in love, all of the chemicals, the dopamine, the oxytocin, the endorphins, those things create this feeling of well-being. You happier, right? We love falling in love. And the addiction to falling in love comes from not having other ways to access bliss and love and pleasure and just the feeling of being accepted, right? Being seen. Just falling in love feels so good, right? Listening to me say this probably feels so good. It's like, I love that. And on the opposite side of that coin is getting our hearts broken. And oftentimes our childhood conditioning creates the energetic system in which we will operate in until we become self-aware enough to shift the way that we perceive ourselves and our lifestyles to change our reality. That's the whole process of the spiritual awakening. And so in this awakening, you have things that you fear, and you have things that maybe you haven't had the time, awareness, tools, and support, resources to heal. A lot of the indigenous, what we would call Black, African American, Hispanic, Latino, like a lot of our culture has been very toxic, and we have not only created relationships from operating in dysfunction, and it's not being wrong or broken and you need to be fixed. Like, it's not about that. It's about what do we have in our subconscious mind that is allowing those traumas to be recreated. So when I say falling in love in fetal position, I'm speaking of your ability to be open, to be vulnerable, and to trust. A lot of us are like sleeping babies in awareness of our selves and the dots that connect, right? The programs that we operate in subconsciously and unconsciously that create our life. This is the key to changing your life. This is the key to breakthroughs. So what happens is that childhood conditioning, that trauma, anytime we experience negligence in any way, a lot of us have parents who had to work, especially Gen X. Like we some strong, resilient ass people. The baby boomers are too. Each generation their own way, but Gen X, like, we had the toxicity of the culture, the music. We had hip hop. We had experienced the crack era. We're the generation that came after a lot of the historical traumas that happened to the world. So, like, we really did have to straddle between worlds. It was a lot on us. We were being raised by parents who were not, proficient with computers and things like that. The technology, it put a separation in between us. So a lot of us kind of feel like, we really don't know who we are. Most of our life was spent surviving, and just trying to get by. So now, falling in love in fetal position, let me give you one example of a fetal position, an energetic closure, just not really able to trust, not able to be fully vulnerable. I don't really trust myself. I've been hurt a lot, been betrayed a lot, so I'm not too sure if people are trying to hurt me or, betray me. I'm mistaken certain looks for they must be mad at me. All of these things are connected to my childhood conditioning and my traumas up to present, including experiences as an adult. So one of the human design aspects in my natal chart and human design is the trauma of guilt. That's my ancestral trauma that I incarnated with, and some of this is connected to a past life as well. But my genetic trauma in human design is guilt. And so if someone feels guilty often, what kind of person are they going to attract in relationship or gravitate towards? Just think about energy and then two sides of the coin, right? So on the other side of guilt, a person that struggles with feeling guilty about things, we usually attract people who blame shifting is one of their maladaptive ways that they develop as a result of trauma. And so the person who always feels guilty about something and the person who copes by blaming other people, because the fear of being wrong is just so inherently ingrained in their psyche to avoid being unloved, abandoned, or rejected. They don't want to get hurt again. Well, you can see this is a fit like a hand in a glove, just like the codependent and the narcissist, or empaths and narcissists. And so attracting someone who uses that as a coping mechanism, and me coping with feeling guilty, which leads to people pleasing and self-sacrificing behavior, is very unconscious. I have to catch myself. But with those two things, you can see how that recreated my childhood trauma, where I always felt bad, I always felt wrong, I always felt like I was being blamed for something. If I don't release that energy, if I don't identify and isolate the thoughts that support that energy, I will continue to attract things outside of me that will blame me or just assign what's happening as something I'm doing wrong. And so the key to relieving that is done by detaching from the sensation of guilt and identifying with it. No longer putting trademarks on those traumas and troubles, right? No longer putting patents on the problems that come from them, and no longer copyrighting those criticisms that keep me feeling guilty. This is how you heal your sense of self, so that you do not fall in love in fetal position again.